Hi everybody, welcome to GTCoding. In this tutorial series, we are designing this blog homepage using Next.js and Shadcn. In the previous video, we designed this hero section, and if I reload this page, we can see that we also have this animation for this. Now in this video, we will design the next section, which is the featured insights section. So let's get started. Right here, I'm in my source code, and the first thing we will do is we'll create a component. So let's go ahead and create a component inside the components folder called featured section.tsx. And here let's go ahead and tap export default function. Let's call it featured section. And for now, let's go ahead and return a div. Let's type featured section over here. And let's add this to our main page. So here in the page.tsx file, after the hero section, let's go ahead and tap featured section. And let's import it from components featured section. So now if you go back to our page, if you scroll down, we can see that we have the featured section displayed over here. Now if you go back to the original website, we can see that for the featured section, we have 4 of these different posts. Now in a real website, we'll get these data from a database. But for now, let's go ahead and store this data inside a file called data.ts. So let's go back to our VS Code, and inside the lib folder, let's create a new file called data.ts. And in this, we'll create a const called featured posts. And let's set it equal to an array of objects. So in this object, we will have the ID. For the first one, we'll just have an ID of 1. Then we will have a title, and I will set the title to something like the art of minimalistic design. So I'll just copy this and paste it over here. And the next thing we need to have is the excerpt. And for this, we can just go ahead and copy this text from here. And let's paste it over here. And the next thing we need to have is the category. So the category should be design over here for this post. So let's tap design. And then we have the date. So let's set the date to the same date over here. I'll just copy this and I'll just paste it over here. And let's also add an image. So for the image, I will just get an image from Pexels. So I'll just get the link of this image. I'll just open this image in a new tab. Let's get this link and let's go ahead and paste it right here. Now in this way, we need to add all the posts that we want in featured posts. So I'll just quickly go ahead and do that. Alright, so I have copied and pasted all these posts. We have these 4 posts over here and we have all the details. Now let's go ahead and start working with the featured section component. So here, first of all, let's go ahead and get all the posts. So I'll just type const posts equals featured posts from lib data. So this will give us all the posts, and it will be stored inside the posts constant. I'll just go ahead and console.log it over here. And you'll be able to see it. So here we can see all the posts are displayed in the console. Now let's go ahead and return a section. So let's go ahead and type section. And in this section, let's add some classes. So I'll just type class name. Let's type py, which is padding top and bottom to 20. Let's type padding left and right to 4. And for screens greater than smartphones, let's type padding left and right of 6. And for larger screens, let's type padding left and right of 8. And in this section, we'll create a div. And for this div, let's add some classes. So let's type class name. Let's type max width of 7XL and MX auto for bringing it to the center horizontally. And in this, we need to have these cards. Before that, let's create the heading and this text over here. Now, if you reload this page, we can see that we have the animation for this heading and this paragraph as well. So let's add all of that inside a motion.div. And let's import motion over here. So let's type import asterisk as motion from motion/react client. And in this motion div, let's create an h2. And here let's go ahead and tap featured insights. And here we can see we have the featured insights. Let's add some classes over here. So let's type class name. And let's set the text to 3XL. Let's type medium and larger. Let's type text 4XL. And let's set the font to serif. Let's set the font to bold and text color to foreground. And let's add a margin bottom of 4. So this is our featured insights. Let's also bring this to the center. So here for the motion.div, let's type class name. And let's type text center and margin bottom of 16. So this is how it looks. Right now, let's add some animations over here. So let's tap initial and let's set it equal to opacity of 0, Y of 20, and let's tap animate, and here let's tap opacity of 1, Y of 0, and we also need to have transition, and let's set the transition to duration of 0.6. Right now let's go ahead and create a paragraph, and in this paragraph we will add this text over here. I'll just copy this and I'll just paste it over here, and let's add some classes. So let's tap class name, text LG, text muted foreground, max width of 2XL, MX auto for bringing it to the center. So this is how it looks. Right now let's create another division for displaying these posts. So let's go ahead and create a div. Let's go outside this motion.div and let's create a div, and let's add some class names. So I'll just have class name of grid, MD grid calls to, so this will have 2 columns when we are on medium or larger screens, and let's also add a gap of 8. And in here we need to display all the posts, so let's loop through all these posts. So we'll use a map. I'll just tap curly braces, posts dot map, and here let's tap post. We'll call each of the posts post, and let's also add an index, and here let's go ahead and return a motion.div. So let's add parentheses. Here I'll just tap motion.div, and in here we will use a card from Shadcn. So first of all, let's install card. You can just open the terminal and you can just go ahead and type npx shadcn at latest add card. Let's press enter, and I think we also need to add badge, so let's add that as well. So let's tap badge over here. Right now let's continue with our featured post component. So here let's use a card from UI card, and in this card we will have a card header. So let's tap card header from UI card, and in this card header we will have a div where we will store the image. So in the source we'll just go ahead and enter post, and in the post we have an image. So if you go to the data.ts file, here we can see that we have this image over here. So let's go ahead and type post.image, and for the alt let's go ahead and type post.title, and let's add some classes over here for the image. So I'll just tap class name. Let's tap width of full, height of 48, object fit to cover, transition, transform, and let's tap duration of 300. And when you hover over this, we need to scale the image. So let's type group hover scale 105. Now let's add the group class to this card, so that when you hover over this card we have this animation. So let's tap class name group, and let's add some more classes. So let's tap cursor of pointer, overflow of hidden, and for hover let's tap shadow XL, and let's also type transition all, duration of 300, border of 0, BG card 50. So this is the color, and backdrop blur excess, and padding top and bottom of 0. So here we can see we have these images being displayed over here. Now for the card header, let's go ahead and add class name of padding of 0. So just remove all the padding. So this is how it looks. We can see that we have this border radius. Right now let's add a badge over here for the category. So let's go ahead and type div below the image, and in that we'll add a badge. So this is also a component from Shadcn. So let's import it from UI badge, and here we'll just type post.category, and let's add some classes over here as well. First of all, for the div let's type class name, and let's set it to absolute, and for the div over here let's add a class name of relative, and here let's also add top of 4 and left of 4. So these are the positions. And if you go back here, we can see we have the badge. Let's also change the variant of the badge. So let's type variant to secondary. So here we can see we have a different type of badge. Let's also add some class names over here. So let's type class name. Let's set the BG background to 80. 80 is the opacity, and backdrop blur to excess. Alright, now let's go ahead and add the card content. So let's go outside the card header, and let's type card content. So these are all coming from Shadcn. So in this card content, we will add the date first of all. So here we can see we have the date. So let's create a div, and in that let's type post.date, And let's also add a calendar icon over here. So let's go ahead and type calendar, and let's import it from Lucid React. And let's also add some class names over here for the calendar icon. So let's type class name h4, width of 4, and margin right of 2. So here we can see we have the calendar icon. Now these two should be one next to the other. So let's go to the div and let's type class name flex, items center, text of small, text color to muted foreground, margin bottom of 3. And for the card content, let's add class name and let's set the padding to 6. So this is how it looks. Right now the next thing we will do is get the title and display it over here. So let's go outside this div. Let's create an S3 and let's type post.title, and let's add some class names over here. So let's type text Excel, font serif. Let's also set the font weight to bold, and let's type text foreground, which is the color of the text, and let's type margin bottom of 3. Let's type group hover colon text primary. So when we hover over this, we need to have the text color change to primary, and let's also add a transition for the colors, and let's type duration of 300. So now if you go back and if I hover over this, we can see that the color changes to the primary color. Right now let's create the excerpt. So let's go outside the S3, let's create a paragraph, and let's type post.excerpt, and let's add some classes over here. So let's type text muted foreground for the text color. Let's type margin bottom of 4, line clamp of 3. So now we can see we have the excerpt being displayed over here. Now the next thing we need to have is this read more button over here. So let's go back, let's go outside the paragraph, let's create a div, and in that let's type read more, and let's also add arrow right icon from Lucid React. Let's add some classes. So let's type class name, and let's set it to margin left of 2, height of 4, width of 4, transition of transform, and let's type group hover, and let's type translate x1. So when you hover over this, it will move to the right side, the icon. So here we can see this is how it looks, and we also want the icon and the text to be one next to the other. So let's go ahead and type class name inside the div, and let's type flex, items center, text primary, font medium, and group hover, and here let's type underline. So when we hover over this, we need to have the underline. So this is how it looks right now. And here we can see we also have this error when we reload the page. So if I open this, we can see that each child in the list should have a key. So if you go back, here we can see that this is a list. We are using a map. So here for the motion div, let's add a key. So let's type key, and let's set it equal to post.id. Now let's also add animations over here for these cards. So here, let's go ahead and type initial, and the initial state should be opacity of 0, y of 20, and instead of animate, we will use while in view. So let's type while in view, and when the card is being displayed on the viewport, then we'll just go ahead and set the opacity to 1 and y to 0, and let's add transition, and let's set it equal to duration of 0.6, and let's also add a delay, and let's set the delay to index, which is the index of each of these posts, times 0.1. So it will have a little bit of delay between each of these posts when they are displayed. Now we are using while in view instead of animate because the featured section is below our hero section. So if we scroll up, we can see that if I reload this page, and if I do not use while in view, and if I just use animate, then if you scroll down, the animation will happen at the time the page is loaded, and if you scroll down, we cannot see the animation. But now we can see that the animation is being displayed even if we scroll down after some time, because the animation runs when the division is in the view. So if you scroll down, we can see that the animation is working when we scroll down. Now let's do the same for the heading and this paragraph. So if you scroll up, here we can see that we have animate over here. Let's change this to while in view. And now if you go back and if I reload this page, and if I scroll down, we can see that the animation happens when we scroll down. So that's how it works. And we'll also make sure that it won't animate every time we go in and out of the viewport. So for that, we can just go ahead and add one more line over here, which is viewport. And here let's type once true. So this will happen only once. So if you go ahead and reload this page, and the animation will happen for the first time. But if you go ahead and go back to the element again, the animation doesn't happen. So let's do the same for these cards as well. So here, let's go ahead and type viewport once true. And now if we go ahead and reload this page, we have the animation for the first time. But if we scroll up and go down again, we can see that the animation doesn't happen. So with that, we have completed creating our featured post section of our website. So that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.